On this edition of In the Gun, well, the Mountaineers lose to Pitt, and they didn't just lose, they lost in painstaking fashion. Unfortunately, we have to talk about it. We will talk about it, and then we'll pretend this never happened. All of that and more on this episode of In the Gun.
You are now watching Believe.
ITG.
Special guest, Sean Big Daddy Mariner.
Handsome, tubby man of gold.
Mac and cheese, top 3 food for me all time.
Here with your gnarly news at noon, I'm Sean Mariner.
You've never met a mac and cheese slut like me.
You are In the Gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 190 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I'm Wesley Euler. I got the best teammates in the business. We've got the signal caller, Jed Drenning, and the runaway beer truck, Big O. And as always, this edition of ITG brought to you in part by our friends at BetOnline, the most trusted betting platform, your number one source for everything football, every stat, every matchup, live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. It's all at BetOnline. And you got to get in on their $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every single week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. When the games are over, you can head to their online casino, get in on games of blackjack, poker, or one of over 150 slot games. So head to the website today to get in on the action. That's all at BetOnline. The game starts here. The game is over for the Mountaineers. It's been a few days since the 38-34 loss at Acrisure Stadium to the Pitt Panthers. You guys know how this typically works, right? On our episodes, we come in here, we kick around maybe something light for a few minutes. We go to break, and we get into kind of the meat and bones of our episode. But the three of us don't really feel like doing that today because, as you can imagine, I got to kind of laugh, but it sucks. We don't really want to rehash all of the details that have already been debated ad nauseum over the last 48 hours or so. So my two teammates, the best teammates in the business, Jed and Owen, have trusted me to make a little bit of an opening statement here before we go to break and get to our buddy Big Daddy. And so I'll just say this, like, there's very few things in life tangible, right, that you can kind of reach out and touch, not love and all those feelings that really matter with your friends and family that matter to me more than the program, than WVU football, than the university, than that flying West Virginia logo. There's no players, no coaches, no athletic directors that I care about more than that logo. And I think at this point in time, it's understandable for everybody to be frustrated. You guys know what type of show this is. We've done 189 episodes of this show. We don't come on here throwing spitfire and rage and calling for everybody's heads and calling for everybody's jobs. But I don't think we also want you to come here for this reaction episode and us trying to blow a bunch of sunshine and rainbows up your backside either, because that would just be, that would be, a lie. That would be false. That wouldn't be genuine. So I don't know what the ceiling of WVU football is anymore in kind of this new era of college football, this new age of the sport that we all love so much. Is it to win the Big 12 and make a playoff? Is it to win a playoff game? Is it still to legitimately win a national championship? I don't know. But all I do know is that the program expects more, rightfully so, than not contending for conference championships, than going years at a time unranked. So that's where I'm at here to start this thing. We'll get into some stuff when we return. We're going to catch up with our buddy Big Daddy. But, in a lot of ways, it kind of, just feels like this feeling that we've had too much recently. I think that's the best way to put it. And again, I know a lot of you are coming to this podcast hoping that there's going to be rage and we're going to call for people's jobs and everyone should be fired and Ren Baker should blow the whole thing up like it's a sequel to the movie Oppenheimer. We'll be, I think, a little more nuanced than that. But I will also tell you this. I've been thinking about this all day. This is the last thing I'll say here before we go to break on the other side and get into some of this. I think a football team in a lot of ways can be looked at like a restaurant, like a kitchen staff. And you know, a symphony of different jobs that all have to work in concert together to produce a result. But I also know too that in kitchens, right, if the food stinks, we don't blame the fry cooks, right? We don't blame the dishwashers. It tends to start at the top. And so when people want the hard questions asked, when they want, change or a new direction, I do think, again, the three of us are not going to sit here and tell everybody that they're idiots for feeling emotional. So that's the line we're going to try and walk on this episode. We're not going to dime every single person out and sit here and throw hellfire, but we're not going to try and act like everything is all hunky dory as well too. I think that's enough. I don't know. One more last thing I'll say. Oh, and you're laughing here, but and you can back me up on this.
Wes, I will back you up. And here's in my words how I can sum it up. My grandfather, he would say things to me, right? And this is what I'm going to say, and this is all I have to say about this game. Okay, I'm just disappointed. I'm just disappointed. I'm disappointed because I know we are better than that, and there was some, crucial mistakes made, like you were talking about the front house of the restaurant, that, hey, like I said, I'll leave it at that. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, that's not Mountaineer football, right?
Yeah, and listen, you and all three of us were like, we're all fans in a way, but in different ways, right? I mean, Owen, you played for the program in some of the best days we've ever had. Jed, you've been with the program as a player and on the analyst side of things and have just been around the program for decades. Everybody knows my goofy story, right? My initials are WVU. My parents met there. I've been going to games since I was 6 and how much the university means to me. My parents met at WVU. I met my wife at WVU, all these things. But yeah, that's a good way to say it, Owen. Honestly, I think in all the rambling that I did, you summed it up. It just feels like in a year last year where they did so much good and picked up so much momentum and flipped the script on what we had all been talking about as a team that had been picked 14th, right? And they really went out there and did it last year. That kind of feels gone now before you've even played a conference game. I think that's probably the easiest way to sum it up for me. So we'll get into some things on the other side. We'll catch up with our buddy Big Daddy as well too. Thank you to our guy JR and all of our friends at Toothman Ford for being a presenting sponsor of this episode of In the Gun. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. Going to take a break here. We'll be back with more on the other side.
I'll say this. Yeah. First of all, you're the only one stuck up there in enemy territory that's subjected to some level of hell that Owen and I can't even imagine.
Man, Jed, I got phone calls and text messages from people I haven't talked to in years.
I mean, we've been communicating since, at least Sunday morning about all our personal strife as a result of this. And I mean, it's first of all, I heard from people that I haven't heard from since the Houston loss last year. There are those people that just sit back on their haunches and wait for a miserable moment and then reach out. But of course, this is far more miserable because of who it was against, whom it was against. And what made it so frustrating was it's bad enough to lose to these guys, but it felt like we lost to them in the balance of 60 minutes a couple times. It almost felt like 2 losses to these guys. And what's so frustrating, and you and I, before we came on the air, Wes, we both said, look, to the victor go the spoils. Those who win write history. That's absolutely always true. And what makes that so frustrating is since they brought this rivalry back, which we all agree so desperately needs to continue to be on the schedule. We played them 3 times. We've outplayed them 3 times, and yet we're 1-2. I would love to sit here and tell you guys some of the cracks between the keys in terms of what I saw on Saturday that can really demonstrate what a low-class program they are. I'm not in position to do so. I don't feel entitled to do so. We lost. So I'm going to save those stories for another time. I mean, you can't allow a situation where a quarterback runs for 88 yards and 86 of them are after contact. You can't allow a situation where you have them 2nd and 17 and they find a way to convert into a touchdown. One possession. They have a 2nd and 19, a 3rd and 15, a 2nd and 14, a 2nd and 20, score on a 2nd and 10 touchdown. That's all in one possession. All you got to do is make a play and get them off the field. You had so many opportunities to do that. When you look at what played out in a tie game in the 3rd quarter, you got to overcome the bad calls. The bad calls went both ways. I can't believe that the DB of the year said what he said on the field in his post-game interview. I just thought that the Big 12 officials called a bad game. That had nothing to do with the outcome.
Least surprising
But
thing ever.
it's just that they were as sloppy as we were, the officials were. And so we start the second half. Guys, it had vibes of last year's TCU second half. They were carving you up for the first 30 minutes. And then the next thing you know, you come out in the second half and you're slamming the door. They had -2 yards on their first possession. They netted 0 yards on their second possession. They netted 6 yards on their third possession. And yet, when you find yourself up by 10, guys, there have been 6 teams with a 10-point lead in 100 and some odd college football games this year that have lost. Pitt has 2 of those 6 wins. And we just let them off the hook and gave them number 2. They had 2 70-plus yard drives in the final 5 minutes, and we had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to get them off the field and end it. Defensively, we had opportunities to end it. We didn't do it. They made the plays. We didn't make the plays. You got to tip your cap.
And Jed, real quick, just to interrupt. They wanted it more at the end.
They did, and Owen, it was a strange phenomenon where
they wanted it more at the end. I mean,
we thought it was over.
Yeah,
when it was tied at 17, and I've never seen a game tied in the 3rd quarter where one team was ready to quit. When it was tied at 17, because of the flow of that 3rd quarter, the body language of Pitt was screaming, "Give us a reason to quit. Make one big play, and you can win by 17. You can run away with it. We are ready to quit." The long touchdown, boom, I thought that was it. It gets called back. 3 plays later, they block a punt for a touchdown. And they went from being ready to quit because of the flow of that 3rd quarter to being the most excited team I've seen in 3 years because of that block punt for a touchdown. Whole new ball game at that point. So you're right, Owen. By the end of the game, they were making the plays we weren't. And look, you can say a lot of things about what we didn't do. They made the plays. We were rushing 3, we were rushing 4. I think one time we rushed 3 in the final 12 plays. The rest of the time was a 4 or 5 man rush. He was breaking tackles against a 4 and 5 man rush. We were running man, we were running zone. They were making plays. We didn't make the plays. We didn't make the calls. And what makes this so frustrating, that's the 2nd time in 2 trips up there in 3 years that we now had the game basically, it felt like sealed up. And we asked our defense, stop their offense on a long field. And not only did our defense fail to do it in that moment, and our offense, I'll get into why they pitched in too real quick, but 2 years ago, we pinned them on the 8 with a punt, up 7 in the 4th quarter, less than 5 minutes to go, or 5 minutes and change to go. They drove 92 yards and tied it. The pick 6 then happens. I don't remember the pick 6. I remember the 92-yard drive, right? We had opportunities then. You know what we have in common? There was a personal foul on that drive as well. Just like personal foul on one of these 2 key drives to keep things alive and keep things humming. So then we get the ball back with 3 minutes left, and it's still a 3-point game. Look, I don't like to disagree philosophically with a lot of things we do, but I said in real time, I'm not going to be a Monday morning quarterback. I said on the broadcast, there's 3:06 to go. You have the 2-minute warning and 3 timeouts. You're 1,000 miles away from the clock mattering in this football game. We need 3 first downs to win. The only way to get 3 first downs against any defense is to be highly aggressive and open your entire playbook. I wouldn't have minded us going even tempo and playing pitch and catch against what they were going to try and do to get us off the field. Look, a quick 3 and out's better than stalling for a minute. I mean, yeah, we missed a couple blocks on that first down play. We did. A couple wideouts missed on a crack. I think we had an 8 or 9 yard pickup to the boundary. We had an advantage, a leverage advantage on them, Owen. But that happened. And instead of 2nd and 1, it's 2nd and 9. And the next thing you know, 2nd down doesn't work and it's 3rd and long. The next thing you know, advantage them and they're forcing us off the field with a sack. So I do think, and I felt at the time, Dwight and Tony and I were discussing this during the broadcast. I said, look, you need to treat this possession not like it's 3 minutes to go in the game because of all the crazy timeouts left. You need to treat this possession like it's the middle of the third quarter and you need 3 first downs. And I'm sure that's one of the many things that when Neil revisits this, he's looking at strategy and otherwise, that when it doesn't work, you're gonna revisit things, and now you put yourself in a position because of the struggles through 3 weeks that all things are on the table. That's personnel changes, that's assignment changes. I mean, all things are on the table. Why wouldn't they be? It hasn't worked structurally, personnel wise. It hasn't worked. So you have to find answers, and you have to find answers in a short week with another Saudi team come to town. I'll leave you with the closest thing I saw to a positive. And I had to desperately try and find this. But what I did like, after Neil addressed the team in the locker room, he said his remarks. Well, the team was ready to go. They were ready to break and go. CJ rallied the team in. And then CJ addressed the team. And when you've been in locker rooms and you see where I'm going with this, there's a certain dynamic that takes place when a player in a position of leadership recognizes, I got to speak up. And coach can only go so far. I got to speak up as a peer and this and that. And I like what CJ said. He talked about how much there was left to play for. Look, the long and short of it's this: nobody likes where we are after 3 games. How could you? But I already said it felt like we lost to Pitt twice in 1 game. It really did. Let's not lose to them 3 times. Don't let them cost us the Kansas game with some kind of morbid hangover where we're feeling sorry for ourselves. You got to do whatever you can to try and put that behind you, improve again with personnel changes, assignment, whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to do structurally, play calling, whatever that might include. But I don't like the fact, Wes, that we've outplayed them 3 times and had 1 win to show for it, because when that happens, you got to shut up, you got to zip it, and you got to take whatever they dish out. And they're going to dish out a lot. It's going to be an unbearable 12 months waiting for the chance to rectify this with our next chance against them. But that's kind of what we all had a dark weekend. And that's why we're bringing Big Daddy on. He's family. What do you do in times of darkness? You need family. That's why we're dragging him in to subject him into this. It's
I can't
whether
believe
he likes it or not. That guy makes me feel good. I need to feel good.
If I was Big Daddy and you would have asked me to come on the podcast today, I would have sent you back some 4-letter words and with no in there. But
yeah, he kind of did in his own way. But that's what I got, guys. That's what I got. It's frustrating. It's all those things. It's you don't sack a team 5 times and not force a turnover and hope to win. I mean, we got to figure that out.
Yep.
Guys, the last 5 games we have with 5 sacks, we forced 3 total turnovers. Right?
Have we forced a turnover yet this season? And I don't mean Penn State botching a snap. I mean, have we forced a turnover?
That's the only one. That's it. That's the only one, was the Penn State botch snap. Now, Wes, here's the thing. Last 5 games with 5 sacks at Troy, Neil's Trojans, 12 turnovers. A lot of the same staff members, including Jordan Leslie. Philosophically, it's the same. What's different? You need to revisit what's wrong and fix that. Downstream from pressure should be takeaways, and that hasn't been the case. We led the Big 12 in sacks. We're getting pressure again this year. No turnovers to show for it. Why? You need to solve that riddle among many others.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I mean, nobody has more fun than me when we win this game, and nobody has to eat their their medicine, take their medicine like me when we lose this game. The one thing I was reminded of, though, in the last 48 hours or so is that I didn't nearly dance on their grave enough last year when we beat them and they went 3-9. I should have enjoyed that and rubbed that in way more. That was a big missed opportunity by me. That won't happen again the rest of my life. All right. I learned that lesson, and I'll keep that one in the back pocket for later. Before we go to break and get to Big Daddy real quick, and another positive that you guys will like, at least. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm wearing this T-shirt. It says "The Grateful Gnome, Country Roads Take Us Home, the Colorado Mountaineers." I went to perhaps the coolest bar brewery I've ever been to in my life on Saturday. It's called the Grateful Gnome. It's right outside of, like, 10 minutes outside of the city of Denver. It is it's a bar that's owned by a WVU alumni, and has Grateful Dead themes to it. And if you know me, if you've listened to this show for more than 10 minutes, you know that the two things I talk about way too much are WVU and the Grateful Dead. I went there. I met Ted. I met Jesse. I met Andy. There was probably 40, 50 Mountaineers at this bar in Denver to watch the game. And that's over 1,000 miles away from West Virginia. That's 2 time zones away. I can't tell you how many people, because I posted a couple pictures on my social media. I can't tell you how many people have said to me in the last couple days, dude, I saw your pictures. A WVU bar in Denver? Like, that's crazy. How does that happen? It obviously did not go the way that we wanted it. And that place was electric, and then was like a balloon getting popped very quickly. But a huge thanks to everybody there at the Grateful Gnome for taking care of us. It was a blast. It's one of the coolest places I've ever been to. There's WVU stuff all over the walls. They've got Jones Avenue and all these different street signs that they stole that are on the walls from back when they were in college. All this different Sunnyside stuff. Their signature beer is called Mountain Layer Lager. So awesome. A big thank you to all the people at the Grateful Gnome. And if you are somebody who finds yourself in Denver regularly or at some point, in the future, I would highly recommend the Grateful Gnome. Great beer, great food, great people, great atmosphere. So thanks to them for taking care of me. And
Wes,
I got my heart broken, but at least I got this t-shirt.
As Beanie and Zach were flying to Denver to go 2-0, and Zach's getting all this love from all the analytics sites as this standout rookie center, right? Doug, of course, is on the travel squad. Ironically, doesn't travel, right? But he's a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers organization too. So he didn't go to Denver. So he was able to make it to the game. It was great to have Doug back around for a game too. He was on the sidelines in the locker room with us. It was great to have Doug back around.
Yeah, I saw Jed. I've never met him before, and I was busy, and it's also just not the right time and place with professional work settings. But saw David Sills on the sideline in Denver because he's with their practice squad as well too, and so he was there with it being a home game. I'm down there testing our wireless microphones, and I'm like, oh look, there's David over there, and again, like, the fanboy in me wants to go up and be like, dude, thanks, loved you when you played for WVU, but I'm like, hey, you're here doing a job. He's a player. You work for the team, not the right place, dude. All right, just bury it deep down low. But yes, always good to see our Mountaineers doing big things on Sunday, without a doubt. Another great game for Zach. Beanie made a couple big plays as well too. Had a great open field tackle of Bo Nix. We all know the shifty Broncos quarterback, in a big moment to get the Steelers off the field on a 3rd down. So at least we got that going for us, baby. Geno Smith balling out to move the Seahawks to 2-0 as well too on Sunday. So we'll take it where we can get it. So there we go. I thought that was going to be all doom and gloom for like 3 or 4 minutes, and it was still mostly doom and gloom, but we got some positives and some laughs in there as well, too. We'll close down this episode with our buddy Big Daddy on the other side. You are in the gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cars cost less in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
There are better-known tractors in the world than Coyote. Ones with bigger names, longer histories, more popular hats, cute toy lines. But there's not a single tractor ever been built that's better equipped to do the dirty work. So we'll just focus on what really matters. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Now at Johnston Equipment, get 0% financing for 72 months, plus a free loader on select Coyote models in stock. Visit us on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan.
Back in the gun here as we come to the conclusion of episode 190 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. Along the way here, over these few years that we've been doing this thing, our buddy, your friend, handsome tubby man of gold, Sean Big Daddy Mariner, of course, of what is the exact, like, is it WVU Athletics Video? Is that the proper title?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
You worked there for 4 years. Figure it out.
I only interned for you for 4 years, and we've only been friends since 2009, and you've had the same job the whole time. But yeah, I still have to ask. So obviously, what Sean controls is not the product on the field, but maybe some of the hype and the pomp and the circumstance around it. And boy, did you guys produce a hell of a hype video with Rasheed Marshall. If that would have been the result, if it would have been our hype video compared to their hype video, we win by 50. We win by 50. One, just walk us behind the idea of that. And then two, I need to know if you can tell me, did Rasheed take any convincing to do that? Or was he like, oh yeah, hell yeah, let's roll with it?
So one of the things about getting old and having these two kids now is that I have given what I can to the youth and let them flourish. And our guy, Ross Mara, our head of digital, and our boy, Joe Mitchin, shout out Joey Mitch. Ross is the main videographer and editor, and Joe kind of runs digital. They have been taking everything and kind of molding it, and your fat old buddy has been on the outside looking in and just getting all the good stories afterwards, of course. But they got together with Rasheed, and the plan was to go up and do, obviously, the uniform reveal over there at Point Park and everything. And then they were like, yo, if we got Rasheed, let's knock out a hype video. Your boy Joey Mitch was the director behind the scenes, getting Rasheed all amped up, writing out the script, getting them going, directed them on the day. And I mean, Jed can attest to this. Rasheed was nervous. That kind of stuff is not necessarily his bag, even though go watch the video again. It's
great.
Creepy how just natural he is at it. Like, he's not acting. He doesn't have to put anything on. It reminded me of a certain other gentleman on this podcast doing a voiceover a few years ago that just came out very, very natural. Give him a wave, Owen. It was wonderful. And you know, he was just so good, and there's just so many good.
He would have been a great WWE superstar in another lifetime.
He's got the zhuzh, and you know, not only is he a WVU legend, a new Hall of Famer as of this weekend, but also like the fact that he is a Pittsburgh guy. Like, it cannot be stated enough. He and Major Harris are such big Pittsburgh connections and are reasons why we have our hands in Pittsburgh as a market and as a WVU alum base and just fan base. It can't be stated enough. I mean, for years, you know, everybody, the Pennington catch is iconic. So many memories, everything in the late 2000s with the Pitt game and everything. So it got lost for a while. Rasheed in that building in 2002, this is my house. Like, that is a top 5 iconic backyard brawl moment. The guy has earned everything. And so that video was, shout out to Mason Tucker's the one that shot it, up there with Blake, up there with Joe. They did an absolutely amazing job.
We had to add the Bulgers to that conversation. Right?
Well, Meg is texting me right now. I'm trying to get her to calm down for a second, but you know, because
what'd you say, Owen?
Parents.
It gave me chills. I was like, you know, let's go, baby.
Walked into the team hotel Friday night, and we're checking in. My wife, my youngest boy, Maverick, are up at the desk, and I glanced over across the lobby, and I saw Sheed sitting, I don't know, 30 feet away, and he's right on the sofa talking to somebody. And so real quick on my phone as we're checking in, I pulled up the video from the WVU Twitter account, and I said, hey, Mav, check this out. And I handed it to him in the direction that Rasheed was at his eye line. Okay. And so Maverick starts looking at it, and he just on his own glances up, and he starts doing double takes. He's immediately recognized, wait. And I was like, yeah, go holler at it. So we had some fun with Sheed there, and I talked to him about it, and he's like, you know, and it's easy to say it when you mean it, when it comes from the heart. It's always easy to say because he sounded like, you know, somebody that was going to win a Tony when he was delivering those lines. I mean, it was so crisp and so genuine and so heartfelt, and he's great at that kind of thing. He really is. He really is, and he's grown into it. He's more comfortable with it now than he even was before. But yeah, fun little family moment with Sheed, and then on the other side of the lobby, we got to see, and I hadn't realized this, but we bumped into Blaine. Chrissy, my wife, hadn't seen Blaine since the Gator Bowl in 09.
Ooh,
Think about
wow.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had a little fun with that. But yeah, so me and her and Blaine, but yeah, another blast from the past moment. But that video was incredible, Big Daddy. It really was.
It's crazy to me. Like I've said it before in a bunch of stuff that I've been on. And anytime anybody asks me, like my freshman year was the Pennington catch. Okay. I'm in a car on the way to the Ohio Valley Mall over in St. Clairsville with my best friend Steve because it was Thanksgiving break and I was a freshman and I couldn't stay in the dorms. I had no place else to stay. So I couldn't go to the game, right? Only brawl I ever missed. We're over to the mall and we hear the play. We hear it. Like it's a moment that will live with me till my dying day. And now 21 years later, Justin Robinson catches that pass in the end zone for the touchdown. What could have been an iconic backyard brawl moment, an amazing catch, goes and stands on the track. Rasheed hooks me on the way back and just says, Sean, did you see how he stood on that track? That looked familiar. And that's 2002, his touchdown pass when he did the This Is My House. And in that moment, obviously, I'm hyped up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was your pat, like all that. And I walk away. I'm like, the guy that I watched throw these touchdown passes to, beat Maryland for the first time in however long while I'm up in the stand. Like, I work with this guy now, and now he's just talking ball with a guy who never played a down of high school football on the sidelines of the backyard brawl. Like, what the hell is going on?
It struck me, Big Daddy, that as Pitt was driving at the end, I said on the broadcast, this is the end zone of the Ben Collins, Rod Rudford fourth and goal stop. I was hoping that we could rub some luck onto it, but that was the same end of the field.
What did you tell me when the fourth quarter started? What did you tell me like near the end of the third when we were trying to score? We ended up having to switch ends of the field.
That's right. I said I hate that end zone. At least we don't have that them go heading toward that end zone in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And I hate that end zone because that's where the pick six took place. But at least we didn't have that when you and I were on the sidelines. And I said, at least it's not that end zone for them in the fourth quarter. And they swapped it. But
all right, Big Daddy, before we wrap this up, Hall of Fame weekend coming up here. Rasheed Marshall, Anthony Becht, the former football, obviously not the only ones, but those as it relates to the football conversation.
Adrien Morell,
here.
too. Adrien Morell's in on that one.
That's right. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Just from your perspective, what Hall of Fame weekend, what that's kind of all like, how cool that is from everything you get to do to, help enshrine these Mountaineers forever.
It's super awesome. The last week, since obviously last week was an away game, Chris O and I share a wall in our office, and I've just heard the Hall of Fame videos being edited out of Chris O's office, Bill Nevin's voice ringing out for a full week. So I get to hear all the accomplishments, and I get to see the video stuff he's putting together. It's awesome. Obviously Rasheed, like we have been calling him. I made sure everybody, Natasha Oakes, our second in command here in the athletic department, like anytime people are talking to him, I make sure everybody addresses him now as Hall of Famer Rasheed Marshall. We've looped that into his to make sure that that's spoken of. And, Anthony Becht, I don't think he's going to be able to be in for this one, but obviously he'll be here for Iowa State. Who would have guessed? Surprise, surprise. It's not like he has a playing form or anything. So that's going to be awesome. And then, selfishly, I'm old now, so I've got to see Meg Bulger get inducted. I've got to see Stedman and Brute. Like, I've got to see a bunch of our guys get inducted. And this year, Liz Rapella from Steubenville, my sister played her in high school. She was obviously here with Coach Carey, and I got to be around her a lot. She's coming back. I'm super excited to see her. So, like, it's a blast getting to go down to that thing and just see all the people that are getting inducted. And then, obviously, we get to show them on the field and give them their little moment to shine and get excited and get some revelry going. So it's freaking awesome, man.
That's cool.
Hall of Famer Rasheed Marshall.
Hall of Famer, Jed. Say it.
I saw him a couple weeks ago after the announcement, and I walked on the field for pregame, and I walked up to Sheed, And I gave him the oh, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I'm worthy, I don't know if I'm worthy. And of course, he got upset. He's offended by that. But let me give a shout out to Adrien Morell. I played with Adrien. Owen, you would have loved to block for this dude. You talk about shifty hips. You nudge a defender one way or the other, he's going to find something. He's going to find some daylight. He was. I'm glad that he's now about to become a Hall of Famer, because at long last I can stop calling him underrated. Because for a long time I've called Adrien very underrated, just shifty, explosive, dynamic, from Hawaii. I mean, just what a story he was. He was such a playmaker, but yeah, what a class. Just like you talked about, Big Daddy, big class. But you'd have loved him, Big O.
And obviously, it's a Hall of Fame, so it means something, right? My buddy Gano just got inducted into the George Washington Hall of Fame down at GW with Charleston last Friday. And, I'm getting pictures. Send me pictures. I want to see. Like, a Hall of Fame is a big deal, right? When it was announced, I happened to be over around football that day, and I saw a sheet, and I did the same thing, Jed. I was like, hey, man, if you need to have somebody that is a go-between us now, if I can't make eye contact, I get it. And he, laughed and gave me hell. But legitimately, when I honestly, hey man, seriously, congratulations, this is big. The joy and the exuberance, it freaking means something to these guys, as it obviously should. But seeing it mean that much to somebody who's still here, this is a big deal. When we were in college, Wes, it was always like, oh yeah, Hall of Fame, it's just something we can cover and cool. I might not know these guys, but yeah, no, great. They're on the wall. They're part of it forever now. This is a big deal for these guys.
Yeah. And as you mentioned too, I mean, Rasheed Marshall, I mean, it's very cool, to see the guys who have waited their time, like Morell, to wait your time and finally get in. But it's cool for us as well too, just to see the guys that we grew up watching and loving and all those memories, and now they get the honor. And yeah, it makes you feel old, but it also makes you appreciate those memories and that fun that those guys helped supply when you were younger.
Of course, Rasheed all started with our Respect To movement right here on In the Gun, right? I mean, that's what started this groundswell. So now that we've accomplished what we set out to achieve with our Respect To movement, it's time for our Respect 35 moment.
Oh, yeah.
Movement.
Yeah.
We got to restart our Respect 35 movement. That's our next initiative here at
Here's
ITG.
my question.
So we're 1 for 1.
These people that are inducted into the Hall of Fame, it's normally it's a photo. It might be a small bronze bust that. Yeah. Do we just do a broken ass face mask for Owen? He doesn't get any actual pictures. He just gets the dent.
Well, if you give him a face mask, as Ren can tell you, he'll break it anyway on his way home.
That's his whole
He gives
speech.
him one of the new black helmets, and it doesn't even make it to his house before
Owen
he's
doesn't
it up.
speak on stage. He just breaks a face mask, holds it up. Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
One of 3 people in the world that got this shiny, new, cold rush helmet, and it's skidding down the highway off of Owen's truck.
This is why we can't have nice things, though.
It is very true. It is very true. It's crazy. You said 21 years, and it really doesn't feel like it, but that's the reality of it. And it's been that long. And, Rasheed was, when I was playing NCAA, Rasheed was the guy. Rasheed was the guy, dude. That was West Virginia was the team back then.
You had Slim and you had Rasheed. That's all you needed.
That's all you needed.
Let alone
dude.
Q in the backfield too.
And Pac-Man Jones returning kicks. And
yes, you want to hear
legit.
something funny? Something funny. I remember in '93 at Glenville, my senior year, they brought back for the 20th anniversary. One of the games they brought back the '73 team that had participated in the national championship game, the NAIA national championship game, and it was the 20th anniversary of that. And we're all thinking hey, look at those old timers! Wow, look at those old timers! That was so long ago. Oh man, they must have played with the dinosaurs. Well, last year, we all went back for our 30th anniversary of our game in the national championship. And guess who was there with us celebrating their 50th? That 73 team was there celebrating their 50th.
Oh, man.
That was 30 years ago. Dude, the time flies by. It really does.
Our generation is known for having the most nostalgia of any generation so far. We are the most nostalgia-driven generation. And that's what freaks me out the most. I turned 40 in May, 40. And if you ask me like what 6 years ago was, I'm like, dude, like 05, 06, maybe?
Yeah, legit.
Right? Somebody like
the true test, Big Daddy, when you try and think of when a movie came out.
So, do you
That
know
happened.
this one, Jed?
Oh, 2016. Wait, 2005.
You know this?
Wait, what?
Dazed and Confused came out in 1993 and took place 20 years before, similar to your 93, 73.
Yeah.
That means a movie that would come out right now would take place when I was a sophomore in college. You watch Dazed and Confused, you're like, holy, that was like 50 years ago. Good Lord. Back to the Future. We are 30 years ago. 30 years ago till now. I'm like, Back to the Future doesn't make mathematical sense. 50s to 80s is like a century. Now it's like, no, I was in I was in 5th grade, 4th grade. No, it's not a thing.
I mean, if a movie came out, this happens to me constantly as my wife and I are talking. I'll think something came out. Remember we saw that. It's like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's 2007.
Yeah, Superbad was 17 years ago. Superbad was 17 years. It's
that blows my mind.
It's the 20-year anniversary.
Blows my mind.
It's the 20-year anniversary of Talladega Nights.
Wow,
that's just insane.
I have Alzheimer's and dementia already because I'm apparently ancient. Like, this is horrific that we're this old.
We had enough to recover from in this episode.
I know. Why did we? I didn't even want to do this tonight, and now I'm making it worse.
Oh gosh. Well, two things that have always been true. No matter what the time, no matter what the year, no matter how recent or long ago it seems, losing to those guys sucks.
Yeah.
The other thing is, too, you know what? I'm still going to be at Mountaineer Field on Saturday getting rowdy, hoping for a victory. Hurry up and don't be late. I don't know. That's all I got.
You hate Pitt now. You hate Pitt then. You hate Pitt forever. I don't care, win, lose, or draw. Forever.
I'm such a sicko that, like, I'm literally thinking Sunday morning, hasn't even been 24 hours since the game's over. I'm like, yeah, you know what though? We'll get our lick back next year in Morgantown, and then we don't play again for 3 years. So we we'll get 4 years of bragging rights over those guys. So I can eat crow for 51 weeks, and then I'll get my 4 years on the back end.
Black Diamond Trophy. We still got it.
Daddy, was it just me or?
No, Jed, stop.
There were a lot of empty seats.
Yes.
A lot of empty seats.
I have talked about that with a lot of people. It was a sellout. There were empty seats all around.
Yes, there were
per section, but quite a few.
I mean, 2 years ago, none, no empty seats.
I'm gonna say
this time, bunches.
I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna close down the podcast. All right. Little Birdie told me that they knew it wasn't going to be quite a sellout, and somebody with some deep pockets bought a bunch of tickets.
Who could have imagined?
You didn't hear it from me. So anyways, that'll do it for this edition of ITG. And that's, you know what, that's the worst part of losing, is that, like, there's so many areas to twist knives, except for when you lose. Except for when you lose, you just gotta eat your medicine and shut up. This would have been a 4-hour episode. If
this would have been Jed and I breaking down tape of, like, what we did on the sidelines. Like, this would have been
trash, telling stories about
where we started. Winners get to write history. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And you gotta stew in it for 51 weeks. You gotta take it on the chin for 51 weeks. But then we'll get 4 years of bragging rights when we get that ass in Morgantown next year. The one thing we ask of you before we get out of here is to be in here and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. We'll be back this week, obviously, with a Kansas preview with Phil Steele later on in the week to preview the entire college slate.
You better be dialed in, because I'm sitting there watching those games, by the way, and I'm like, dude, you're a warlock.
Also, I'm an idiot, and I'm just so depressed and out of it. And, you know, I got like 4 hours of sleep last night flying back from Denver. I totally forgot to thank our friends at Fortis, roof performance, financial certainty guaranteed, and also our friends at Johnston Equipment, who now have 0% financing for 72 months, plus a free loader on select Coyote models in stock. Visit us Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan. Fortis and Johnson Equipment, I'm going to give them some extra love on the next episode since I totally just forgot my hostily duties there. But I think they will understand on this edition. For Big Daddy Sean Mariner, for the Signal Caller Jed Drenning, for the Runaway Beer Truck Big O, our producer / co-host Skylar as well too for putting this together. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.